Peace and love, everybody. I'm Royce Fletcher Thomason, back for another Sunday Hope and Healing session. And today is going to be a little bit different. We come on here, and sometimes we have a different topic that I might speak on that's related to offering encouragement or sharing some insight or some wisdom, hopefully. Sometimes the focus is on actually doing a healing or healings on the broadcast. And that's something that we're always open and willing to do, regardless of whether we have a special topic that we're discussing or that we're dealing with or not. Today is a little bit different. Uh, Today is going to actually be a conversation. So I've got a buddy. uh, I'm going to, oh no, shoot. There we go. Okay. Um, so we can't see him. Well, maybe I'll do it this way. Okay, we can't see him, but I've got Nafis Hassan who's on today, and Nafis and I met several years back, and it was under kind of unfortunate circumstances, but a beautiful friendship has resulted from it, and we whenever we have conversations, it's always very uplifting and edifying, mutually so, I believe. Um, and you know, the conversation gets so rich, and I had this idea of having these like rich, meaningful conversations. Um, you know, Conversations that can be life altering, life changing, life enhancing. And Nafis is a person that every time we have a conversation, it's that sort of conversation. And I feel like it could be, fruitful for other people to be able to benefit from, and almost be kind of like a fly on the wall, if you will, just because of a lot of the insights and things that are shared in the conversations. I feel like other people can benefit from. So Nafis,
Yes, I hear you, Brother Royce.
hey brother, and we've got Curly Conscious King that's here today. Greetings, abundant love, light, and blessings to you as well, my brother. By the way, Curly Conscious King, my apologies. 2 or 3 weeks ago, somehow I goofed up, and I don't know how I did it, but somehow the broadcast didn't go to YouTube, and I know that you're usually watching from YouTube, so apologies for that. And then I couldn't even take the recording and put it on YouTube because all of my space for storage on StreamYard had run up the week before that. So anyway, I wasn't able to put that one on YouTube even later. But definitely glad to have you, brother, and sending out much peace and love and light and many blessings to you as well. So, Nafis, we talked about having this conversation, and I was like, well, hold on, let's not get too into the conversation yet.
I
This
know, I know.
will unfold during the conversation that we're going to have on the broadcast.
Okay. Well,
So,
it's such a good conversation we have. Well, why not share it with everybody?
right, right, right. So, I've got something popping up on my computer. I don't know what that's all about. Okay, all right, just move that out of the way. Yeah, but Nafis, do you feel comfortable with me sharing how we met?
Oh, definitely, Royce. No, that's one of the golden nuggets we get out our whole conversation is how we met.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, for those of you who come here, you're familiar with the work that I do with transcending the matrix and the healing and the training and such, where that's concerned. And there is a person, a nurse actually, who had been through the training. Actually met her through her sister, who was at a place where I was involved in supporting people with healing, and taught a class. And the sister never did the training, but she did. They're twin sisters. She did the training, and she has one daughter, and that daughter is the wife of Nafis, and that one daughter had one child. Greetings to you, Samraj. Much love and light to you. Danielle, affectionately known as Danny. And she was dealing with a health crisis as a little girl. I believe she was 8 at the time, if memory serves me correctly. Ernestine, affectionately referred to as Ernie, asked me about doing some work with her granddaughter, the daughter of Nafis and his wife, Danny, who was dealing with cancer. And so I began working with Danny, and as things unfolded, it started becoming kind of clear to me that she was kind of ready to go, and to just kind of direct attention, where her parents were concerned and everything. And Nafis, you and I have, I think we've developed quite a brotherhood.
Oh, you know what? And just the fact of your presence, and you being there during that time, because it was a time for me, not just the fact that it was her time to go, but you was there to help me let go. Okay, which is, I think, the biggest challenge that most of us have in those kind of situations is how do we let go when a person decides they truly want to go? And not letting go is where we get our grief and suffering.
Yeah.
So just your presence there, and you seem to say the right things at the right time and not say nothing at the right time. And that kind of gave me kind of a stability that sometimes your presence can say more than what anything that your mouth can speak. And you've been kind of that stable rock. And man, do I appreciate that, because if it wasn't for that was one of the most horrible things in my life, I would say. Oh, sure. But it was the most enlightening thing. And sometimes you give angels to walk around you, and man, does that make life bearable.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. And you don't get many friends in the world like that. When you do, it's a blessing.
Yeah. It's interesting why you're mentioning that. Hey, Green Eggs and Pam. My sister Pam it popped up, and
oh, really? Okay.
Pam had 7 years ago, I believe it is, an experience similar to you.
Okay.
The transition of a child. The difference is with your daughter, she was ill, and it was a process. With
right.
Your son, it was sudden. But it's, to me, God always works things out in the way that God works things out. So it's interesting that Pam would be here today when you're here.
Wow.
And we're having this conversation. Like I said, I feel like there are just so many wonderful nuggets, Nafis, that take place in our conversations that I feel like, other people, I'd love for other people to be able to, you and I definitely get a lot of benefit out of our conversations. And I'd love for other people to be able to, to get the benefit as well.
Well, that's because our conversations is not forced.
Yeah.
These conversations, real conversations are never forced,
Mm,
and real conversations are authentic.
mm, mm.
And when we talk, it's authentic. And in this day and time, it's good to have any two people talking that is communicating with an what I can say authentic language of
Yes.
communication, because so much is misunderstood, especially in these kind of conversations.
Mm, mm,
And all the thing that's needed is actually two people with a good heart,
mm, mm.
and the rest will flow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And if I can say so, uh, I think that the case with you and I do believe that we both have a good heart. But I think another thing is that I believe that both of us also have an open mind.
Okay.
And so we're receptive to ideas and expanding our thinking and our awareness. And
Mhm.
like there was a lot that you were exposed to as you were dealing with Danny's illness. There are a lot of
Exactly.
things that were beyond the normal medical model that you were exposed to. There were things that you were exposed to um, that supported you in your care for your daughter. And I thought, by the way, that you were absolutely amazing in your care for her. And I mean, it's a natural for a parent to love their child.
Right.
But what I observed, how I observed you with your daughter was it was on another level. It was on another level, and uh, you you know kind of did a lot of research and exploring a lot of different therapies and things, and what I gathered is that even in your daughter's illness, there was a lot of healing that was able to happen in you, even in the midst of this
Exactly.
really
Ex-
unpleasant.
yeah, exactly. Because I never would have thought that I would be at now. I would be in this place now,
Mhm,
then. But now I start to understand in her transition, it
mhm.
was really a learning curve for me, a
Uh,
learning time. Because I was forced to go around and look for different modalities, uh, organic healing, and I was looking at the different herbs, different type of what you call energy healing,
mm,
and I was looking for anything that I could find at that time that I figured can save my daughter.
mhm,
And what I was really finding was things that was available to save and help me.
mhm, mhm.
And that was her main concern, believe it or not. Even at a young age, she was always inquisitive about the fact that, Dad, when you going to start showing people things about healing? And I'm
Wow.
like, well, what does you mean? What do you mean by that? I see what you mean now.
Right, right, yeah.
But I really found out how much more advanced she was emotionally than I was, and she was a child.
Mhm, mhm,
Okay. But it, like I said, it's a learning curve. And even with all the different stuff, I studied EFT, I studied Be Set Free Fast, you know, and I realized healing goes beyond even that.
mhm,
And she just showed me some of the deeper levels that healing go into. And when
mhm,
I met you, you also took me into another reference point about healing. Okay. Because I was into the herbs, I was into, but during that time, I was introduced into the energetic aspect of healing. And now I start to understand that no healing take place until it takes place energetically first. So no matter what treatment, what herb, what conventional healing, nothing happens until it happens energetically first. Nothing escapes that. And it took a while for that light bulb to go off in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But when it did, it changed everything. You was kind of a facilitator for that. My daughter was kind of a facilitator for that. And that's the big lessons, man, to make, even though there's nothing, I mean, I would give anything I said to have my daughter.
Right.
Okay. But she gave me something more valuable when as she left than she even did when she was here.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that. And appreciation goes past grief.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Okay. Because now I appreciate I was appreciating what she's doing and what she done for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it then because I was blinded by grief.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now I can kind of feel it. And I learned, once I felt it, I knew it was real.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing about it, when people transcend, sometimes we block that healing in ourselves because it's blocked by that grief.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and then you're always giving people to kind of help you on that journey, like you did. You know, I know, me and you go way back a little bit. So,
Right.
So it's not like, it's nothing forced. So you never force situations with me.
Mm-hmm.
You always allowed me to come into an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I had to learn, because I was trying to force healing and force this, and you can never force healing.
Right. Yeah.
You can only allow it.
Right.
So if you want to know one thing that you taught me, and that's the ability to allow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And and honestly, that whole experience was very humbling for me too. I'm a person who's blessed with a certain knowledge, certain ability, and there are a lot of people that I've seen healed from a lot of things that I was blessed and fortunate enough to be able to participate in.
Okay.
In the case with Danny, your daughter, Ernie, your mother-in-law, is a person who, became dear to my heart as a person. She had gone through the training, but she became dear to my heart as a person.
Yeah, she's a beautiful person. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is her only grandchild, her only daughter's only child.
Right.
And my grandparents buried my uncle.
Okay.
He was 33 at the time. That was difficult. I saw how difficult that was for them. And in terms of the natural progression of things, nobody likes to bury a parent. That's difficult. Even if you don't have a good relationship with a parent, you don't like to bury a parent. I've seen people, who really went through some stuff when their parent passed, who they either had no relationship with or had an incredibly toxic relationship with. But that falls within what we consider the natural order of things for a parent to bury the child.
Right.
For a child to bury the parent. For a parent to bury a child, that's just the opposite. And because, like, in our minds, that's not supposed to happen. That's out of the natural order of how things are supposed to happen. And
but that's like what you said, Royce. If a husband bury a wife, or a wife bury a husband, that's a widower or a widow. Okay. If a child buries a parent, they could be considered an orphan. Yeah. But if it's the other way around, there's not a real name for that.
Right.
Because that's not something that's really naturally, even in nature, anticipated. Because nature dictates that things move forward.
Right.
And that's kind of seeing the thing, whereas you kind of taking a step back.
Mm.
So the only thing that I could do at that point is to understand that I started learning to use the universal natural laws. And somebody mentioned, I think it's my brother mentioned once, he said, have you ever thought about the law of compensation? And I said, well, yeah, but what does that has to do with it? But now, now I understand you're never going to replace a sad person or sad. You shouldn't even try to replace it.
Right.
But you can be receptive to fill in the void that's left.
Mm.
And if a person if they don't know how to be receptive to allow, you don't have to allow love. What can I put? It's not the same as it is from one person to the next.
Mm.
But it's not, you just allowing yourself the space to allow that part of your heart to be filled.
Yeah.
So I realized I couldn't replace my daughter, and any parent knows what kind of hole that leaves in their heart.
Mm.
But you can be receptive to receive a new love.
Mm.
Allow love to fill that void. Okay, you're not replacing the old love. You're just allowing the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you lose somebody, it's kind of a blockage.
Yeah.
Okay, and generally that's with grief.
Mm.
But I learned to allow stuff to open up and be receptive to it.
Mm.
Receptive to love. Because see, sometimes when we lose what we think is our ultimate love, we shut down to all other love that's trying to come through.
Oh man, that is so true. And so, man, that was a powerful statement, Nafees.
Man, it was also a painful one to learn. But I was glad I was able to pick up on that and just say, look, I'm shutting down because it's like getting hit with a hard blow. Okay, and you just want to cover up.
Mm.
But eventually you got to open up.
Mm.
You can't live life in a shell, but when you get hit hard like that, it catch you off guard. So you accept it. And then after you accept it, you release it, and you can't release nothing covered up. You got to expand.
Mm.
You got to open up. So I just said I had to open up. If I was going to be healed, in which my daughter was trying to teach me,
Mm-hmm.
by her not being healed or cured, from my end, she was teaching me how to be healed.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But sometimes, man, I guess, Brother Royce, we just don't take that extra step.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you got to get a little push. And sometimes it's a big push. But then that law of compensation come in. And it says, no, I'm not going to give you. It's like getting a nice new car that you love. Nothing can replace it. It gets stolen. But that doesn't prevent you from buying another car that you like.
Mm-hmm.
You're not replacing the old car because you never do that.
Mm-hmm.
You just fill in the void.
Mm-hmm.
You're either going to fill it with something good or you're going to fill it with something bad.
Man, that's so powerful. Yes. It's a scientific law that nature abhors a vacuum. And
wow.
Any place that there is a void created, similar to if you're using the vacuum in your home to sweep out the floor, it sucks stuff up. When that void is created, there's stuff that's sucked into it. Something is going to be sucked into it. Maybe what is going to be sucked into it is something that is destructive, or that's harmful.
Yep.
Maybe what's sucked into it is bitterness and hostility. Maybe what's sucked into it is resistance to anything good. Maybe sucked into it is a feeling of unworthiness. Like we have these different life experiences.
Right.
Not everybody experiences the transition of their child at the age of 9 years old. Or like you and your wife did. Not everybody has that experience.
Right.
All of us experience things that don't feel so good.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, most people don't feel or experience the depth of what you did. Okay.
Okay.
Most people don't have that experience, but everybody has their own experience in whatever way it shows up. And and it can be real easy to close ourselves off, like what you were saying.
Yeah.
And we do it in an attempt to protect ourselves from feeling pain.
Mhm.
But what that really is doing is just kind of locking us into the pain in a way. And so, you know, it'll create pain maybe in a different form or show up in a different way. But we could also, you know, the space that's created where that void
I'm kind
exists.
of glad you. I kind of glad you brought that up, Royce, because I started to realize something else. Is I started to look at healing in another light,
Mm,
and I started to see the fact that even if a physical ailment, I don't care if it's a foot pain, back pain, neck pain, I started to realize it had a emotional or energetic quality to it or origin to it.
mm,
And people, and I noticed, I said, well, you know, I've talked to a friend the other day, had a back pain,
mm.
but his back pain, believe it or not, the body is just demonstrating the pain that's in his emotional body
Yes, yes.
and his energetic body. So emotionally, he felt that, you know, like your back supports you.
Mm, mm.
So the body uses your, I mean, the mind uses your body as a metaphor.
Yes.
That's why they come with, yeah, you're a pain in the neck or you're a thorn in the side, or it didn't come organically. This is humanity learned that pains in the body originated in the mind and energetic field.
Yes,
And
yes.
I think that's what make people like you more effective in what you do, is because it ain't just, I'm going to treat you with this herb. I mean, you may get benefits,
Mm,
but it's also, let's take care of the cause of it to
mm,
where you don't need it to begin with.
mm.
So when you start changing stuff around energetically and a person start to become lighter, they don't have that heavy density. That's why we always tell each other lighten up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you start to lighten up a little bit. You know, I noticed after my daughter, as I start to feel more healed, I start to feel lighter.
Mm, mhm.
I didn't have no more what they say, a heavy heart.
Yeah. And
It
that
started
didn't
to
mean that
lighten
you
up.
loved your
Yeah.
daughter any less.
Right. As a matter of fact, it showed me how to love her even more.
Mm. Talk about that a little bit, Nafis.
Okay. Because what I did is she taught me that, you know, you can love me. I can love you even more, even without your presence.
Mm,
Because I started to understand that you were more than just your presence.
mhm, mhm.
Okay. So I loved, I could think about the times we laugh and you know, I hold her and I could still just smell her hair and just, I have all that.
Mm, mm.
Okay. I don't have to lose that to gain the perspective of how much our relationship and how deep it really went.
Mm, mm.
Our relationship went deeper than the physical.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So when you took the physical out the way, it didn't, matter of fact, it put more focus on our energetic love. I started
Mm.
appreciating more stuff about her that I didn't even notice when she was here.
Wow.
You know, I said, you know what? Yeah. And you feel that, Royce. You know, you feel that. And it's something you feel, and that's the thing about it. Some things you can say, but some things are beyond words.
Mhm, mhm.
Because words come from the part of the brain that can't develop last. Okay. Emotions travel come from the part of the brain that was that runs deeper.
Mhm, mhm.
And so sometimes you can feel it. That's why you can get in grief, but even the words don't really describe the depth of the feeling.
Mhm, Right. Right.
Yeah, because you remove the word. So I just noticed now. I said, well, look, let me deal with the feeling.
Mhm.
That's the trigger point. Let me deal with the feeling, and I'm dealing with what is the cause.
Mhm. Mhm.
My daughter taught me that. I said,
Mhm.
no, I don't. Now I had to deal with my emotions. The physical thing was gone. I'm left with the energetic thing to deal with. Okay. And once I remove the grief, sorrow, deep sadness, okay, it don't stop you from missing a person, but it do open doors for you to receive the whole person.
Mhm.
And what she really was about was this. And I've started to see what you're really about is more than what I thought you was about when you was here.
Wow.
Okay. And I
Mhm.
realized what she was here for was not just for her, but was for me.
Mhm.
And that's a selfless action that I need to learn, and I'm glad I learned it. Or should I say I'm still in the
I'm sure
process
you
of
are.
learning that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because you know what? It forced you to have to try to realize how to heal. In desperation, sometimes you grab anything, but then it forced you to go deeper. And I just had to go deeper.
Mhm. Mhm.
And boy, did I find much more than what I thought when I had to go deeper.
Wow.
Okay. I
Yeah.
started going. So even when I talk to people now I'm learning to be able to talk to people and help them on their road of healing,
Mhm.
because I understand that the origin is not in the body or whatever. That's just a symptom of not healing.
Mhm. Yes, man. Yes. Yes. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, I'm listening to
Speak
this.
of
Go
that
ahead.
real quickly. And you said earlier, you said something earlier about the body being kind of, I don't remember if you said the body being kind of a metaphor or something of that nature. You said just now, stuff going on in the body is indication, when things are out of balance in the body, showing up in terms of physically, out of balance, it's pointing to something being out of balance and at different times you said energetically. And for
Mhm.
anybody who doesn't necessarily get that language or vibe with that languaging, basically what's going on the inside of you is what he's speaking to. Um and the stuff, I've said all the time that the stuff that's happening in our body, I say that our body is a reflection of what's going on in our mind. Okay. And kind of a motto, if you will, as far as this transcending the matrix work is using the power of the heart to heal the problems of the mind. And those problems end up being projected into our bodies. They end up being projected into our lives in terms of how things show up in our lives. And like all of us have these different things going on. And yeah, you can take a Motrin to get rid of your pain, or a Tylenol or something to mask the pain. It's not really getting rid of the pain, to mask the pain so that you're not feeling it.
Right.
Or you can get something cut out of your body that's growing, that's not supposed to go there, or that's not supposed to grow there. You can do those things, but still, those are rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. It's not keeping you from ultimately sinking. And so, what you're talking about, Nafis, is really addressing the root. And you were sharing, and you started to get into it a little bit in this conversation, but before we came on live, you were sharing this experience about this guy with the back pain as well. And if you don't mind, share that story that you experienced with this guy that you came
Yeah, I was.
across that had this.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I was on a conference phone,
Mm,
and actually, I'll show you how the synchronistic part of life works sometimes. I was on YouTube on my television looking at I like to look at different people who have their own particular ways and methods on which they go about healing things. So I'm listening, but I like to get the deeper message to what they're saying. So I'm listening and I'm kind of nodding my head, feeling good. I say, well, hey, I'm picking up on a few things here. My phone rings and it's a conference call. My friend calls me and say, look, you're on live. I say, on live where? He says, I have these other people on the phone. So I said, okay, what is it? So one guy, as we talked, and the conversation lasted a good while. But one of the guys was kind of in alignment, but he was talking about a back pain he was having. And it's pretty much we was having a conversation similar to what we was having here, Brother Rush, about how the mind affects the body. A lot of people don't really know that because they're so locked up in the body, they don't see the causes from the mind. Or what you say is from the heart.
I'm sorry, Nafees. There's just so many gems and pearls being dropped. I am just loving this conversation, and that other people get to, be kind of a fly on the wall, if you will.
Lucky fly.
and there have been people who've been making comments. Reverend Shirley, expressed her gratitude for the healing conversation.
Wow.
And hey there, Ketrin, good to see you, cousin. Much love to you. And Layla, who's Layla, if I remember correctly, you're in Bosnia, but she's all the way on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean from where you and I are, Nafees. You're in Detroit. I'm in Florida. And she, expressed gratitude for this conversation as well, and talked about the need to, to really truly operate in a heart space. But I mean, there have been yes, okay, I thought it was positive. Yes, there have been so many wonderful things that you've been sharing. And Curly Conscious King says very rich knowledge and truth. Enjoying the dialogue, truly enjoying the dialogue. But there's like so many things, and these things that you're sharing, I feel like so many people can benefit from. Gosh, I mean, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, man, I'm enjoying.
I get excited, and we have these conversations. This is our typical kind of conversation. I mean,
that's why I'm enjoying it.
Whenever we talk, this is the kind of conversation we have. Others are just happy to be able to be blessed to be privy to it. And so, it's just beautiful to me for others to be able to participate in this. But I'm sorry, go ahead and continue on.
No, but I love it because like I said, when you allow things to happen and flow unrestricted, okay, it's going to flow to the right place. But what the thing is that even back when I was telling you about this conversation and the guy telling me about his back problem, what I learned, and it's something that I think more and more healers are starting to see now. I think it's a general paradigm shift. And that is they start to address, well, you've been addressing this for a long time, okay? But I'm saying a lot of healers are starting to address the fact that healing has to start within. Even though it's said in the Bible, whatever scriptures you want to believe, but the Bible said everything starts within. You said something about the heart. Well, the heart has a deeper function than the brain. It's the seat of the brain. Okay. And then you say, well, okay, here's the thing. As a man thinks, that's your brain, but in his heart. It didn't say as he thinks, so is he, as he think in his heart.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So I had to learn to leave out and go to the metaphor. And the metaphors is this. You know, the body would tell you, the body is honest. The body would tell you what's wrong simply by the symptoms it's showing you. And the only part of the body that is not truthful is the mouth. Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
And the mouth, you know, and then a lot of times we're not even truthful with ourselves. But the body is telling us, like the guy told me, he said, man, my back been hurting for, he said, over 20 some years ago. I said, well, what happened back then? He said, well, it's been bothering me. He said, I used to be prosperous and I used to make over 160,000 a year. And he's telling me all this. And see, I realized the back represents your support. It's the support of your body. So the body can't speak like me and you talking. So it can only speak through symptoms, sensations, and feelings.
Right.
The problem is we don't know how to interpret it.
Right.
The same reason we don't know how to interpret dreams, because dreams don't make the same sense as they do when we are consciously aware.
Right. Right.
Okay. So when I asked him, I said, your back is bothering you. He said, yes. I said, what's going on? I'm not telling him what to do. I'm trying to find out from him what's going on a level that he's not aware of consciously. So I'm talking to his body. I had to move him out the way.
Right.
So he said, well, you know what? He said, my back been bothering me. He's telling me about all the money. See, the back is your support. And I learned that the lower back is your lower support, which is finances. So I said, well, what's going on with you? He's telling me all these financial problems. I said, well, why don't you start dealing with your finance? Stop feeling guilty about the fact of you not having what you used to have. You're holding on to it, so the body is keeping it. Okay? And the body is going to express whatever's in the mind, whether we want to or not. So the funny thing is, after a couple of minutes, I realized that he got kind of quiet. I said, you okay there? He said, yeah. I said, well, what's happening? He said, I don't feel the pain in my back anymore.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And so, Nafis, you mentioned earlier about blockages. And like you and I can have these conversations. And a lot of people who come and check out, you know, whether the live broadcasts or
right,
you know, who are subscribed to the YouTube and catch it later on Facebook. And
right,
you know, heard me talking for a little while. You know, this stuff isn't necessarily foreign to them, but you know, not everybody is necessarily has been part of this conversation or is this some of this language.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like, you know, you talked about blockages and stuff, and like I give this example with water.
Okay.
Water is designed to flow. The nature of water is to flow.
Right.
Okay. You know, even in the ocean, its nature is to move. Right? Its nature is still to move. And nature, you know, you've got scientists who are doing all of this exploration in space, you know, looking to find. I saw something recently that said they found water underneath the surface of the planet Mars. It was just this past week that I saw something about that. And what they're really looking for is to see if life exists or can exist in other parts of the cosmos, basically. The basis for determining that they use for determining that is if water is present, because water is so key to, at least in this 3D, in the way that we experience life and this form in the body. You know, water is a requirement for that.
Yeah.
You can go longer without food than you can without water.
Exactly.
And just like the, you know, the earth and our bodies are both roughly 3/4 water. But the nature of water is to flow. And if water is not flowing, then it becomes toxic. It
Wow.
literally becomes toxic. And I remember a time, this is a long, long time ago. This is 20 something years ago. There was an issue with my furnace, and uh, the utility company came by my place and stuff. And um, I don't know if I even knew before then, how furnaces actually use water. um, and in this home that I was living in at the time, it wasn't central heat and air. There were radiators. The heat was from radiators. So I guess it made
Oh,
for the
okay.
anyway, there had been a little bit of what around the furnace. There had been a little bit of water there, and I remember even the guy with the utility company saying that he was definitely not about to step in that water because it was standing water, and he understood that water that is just standing, that is not in motion, that is stagnated, is toxic.
Wow.
It becomes toxic.
Wow.
And emotions. You talked about how the body processes feelings and stuff.
Hmm.
A lot of times we even use the words feelings and emotions interchangeably. If somebody says you hurt my feelings, what they mean is that I feel hurt emotionally. Okay. When a person has emotional pain, it really ends up being stored somewhere in the body temple itself.
Wow.
But the word emotions really is energy and motion. So like water, it's designed to flow. They're designed to flow. Like water, if it's not flowing, if they become stagnated, they become toxic. And so, like you were sharing with the example of your daughter earlier, you felt tempted and for a little while kind of shut down. As you mentioned with this guy with the back pain,
Hmm.
just kind of shut down, kind of stagnated things. There was this stuff that he was holding on to, which, I mean, it's okay. We all have painful experiences. If you're a human
Right.
on earth, you're going to have some.
Right.
And the reason that you're going to have some isn't because God is cruel and wants to punish you for being a bad person. It's because of in our own thinking, we just don't get it right sometimes, and we end up punishing ourselves, basically.
Ooh,
We end
that's
up
it.
feeling like we're due some punishment because of
Mm.
mistakes that we've made, because of decisions that we made. And yes, it is important for us to take responsibility for the decisions that we make, but it's also important for us to allow for love that's filled with grace to fill the space. Okay.
Beautiful.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. And so, what happens is that we have these different experiences, whether it is the deep pain of the loss of a child, or whether it is grieving over a loss of money or financial status or
Hmm.
physical resources, or whatever the case might be, like you shared with this gentleman who is on this call. That ends up being just stagnated. No, that wasn't a pleasant experience. Is it something that you can change now?
Hmm.
Is it possible to earn more money? Possibly. Is it a reality that where you are right now is somewhere different than where you were then? Well, apparently so. Um, but it's a reality that you can't put anything into a hand that's into a fist that's closed.
Wow. Yeah.
In order for something new to get in, you have to be able to open up your hand to be able to receive. Sometimes we're clenching, holding on to something that's no longer even there. That's gone, and sometimes we feel like we're betraying ourselves. Sometimes we feel like we might be betraying another by letting go whatever that situation is, as far as whatever that situation is concerned. But it's only in opening our hands and opening our hearts, opening to the good that is available.
Man, that's why I like listening to you.
And I know it's hard. It's hard, man. I'm an eternal romantic. I make no qualms about it. It's true. And I've been
Hmm.
divorced twice. I'm not ever, I'm a person who never wanted to get divorced. But I mean,
Hmm.
I really set myself up for it. That's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. You know, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday. Like, if in 1994, I was having conversations with my yet unborn children. Guess what?
Wow.
They're still yet unborn, and I'm gonna be 51 next month. Okay, I
Hmm.
don't know if it's gonna happen. You know, there's a lot that could be held on to, but without being open to good coming. You know,
Well, see,
sometimes we think that
hmm,
if we lose this, then
hmm,
we lost. Then that nothing else good can come. But yeah, something else good can come.
right,
Danny will not reappear on the earth.
right.
Okay. Um, and if she were to come, even if she were right now, would she come as the 9-year-old or would she come as a 20-something-year-old? I mean,
Exactly.
that time is gone. It won't be replaced in terms of. I don't want to get off into a deep conversation about time because there's a whole lot of places you and I can
Uh,
go. Where,
that'd be another hour.
but you shared that there has been essentially a lot of beauty and a lot of healing and a lot of love that's still been allowed to come into your life. And kudos to you for having that recognition and creating space for it to happen. And it's not a betrayal of your daughter. It doesn't mean that you love her any less. Like you said, you've been opened up to love her even more
Yeah.
than you did while she was yet sucking wind.
Hmm.
And that's beautiful and powerful. Beautiful and powerful.
Wow. I mean, I like the way you put the icing on the cake because in reality, there's either flow or no.
Mhm.
And I love the way you expressed it, far as the flow of water, the flow of energy, energy in motion. All of that's true. And I found the biggest block to all blockages, the king of all blockages, is fear. Fear,
Mhm.
even in your body, if you're afraid of something, you're going to tense up.
Mhm.
Your breath is going to be tighter. You're not allowing that flow. A person relaxed is going to breathe relaxed.
Mhm.
They're going to take, they're going to be open. And if you notice, people nowadays, a lot of the planet is closed.
Mhm.
Okay. And they're not being receptive to information that they could be receptive to. Like
Mhm.
what we're talking about now, it's only going to be a certain group, a certain type of people. I think it's kind of changing now.
Mhm.
Thank goodness, thank God. I think it's changing now. But what we're doing, we're I guess we are opening up the avenues and letting people know. Because see, people know sometimes what to do. They just don't know how to do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. So we just kind of open up the avenues and say, look, you got to, it's okay to be different. It's okay to have pain.
Mhm.
Okay. But once you learn the lesson of it, there's no need for it. You know, that's what I realized that, I hurt my foot. But when I realized what it was from, there was no need for the pain.
Now, so this is my first hearing about your foot situation. So, what did you like? Have a little accident as far as your foot was concerned? I think.
It kind of, well, I was walking up the steps,
Mm.
going to my little man cave the I said, hey, I just dropped my mother off. She was, now this is weird. She's walking on it with a cane.
Mm.
And I felt kind of sorry for her. So I picked her up, brought her over the house.
Mm.
We had a good time. I took her back home.
Mm.
My dad passed away some years ago, right?
Mm.
So she had a cane. I said, Mom, what was wrong with your, what? She said, my knee. I said, oh, wow. So after I dropped her off, I came home walked up my steps, and all of a sudden I had a pain shoot all through my foot. I said, now where is this from? Okay, I said, oh, I don't need this now. I got a lot of stuff to do. So I hobbled up the steps, and I laid down on my lazy boy, and I said, it's got to be something even though it was an accident, or appeared to be an accident. It was. So I asked my mother. I said, "Hey, Mom, I called on the phone and said I don't want to really talk, but what side was hurting?" She said, "My right side." It was my right foot. I said, "Okay, that's all I need to know." Okay, I knew when my dad was here that she depended on him, and energetically, the right side is the masculine side. So, but I said, "Oh, okay, he is not there no more, so she needs support." So in my mind, I was like, well, she's going to depend all on me now. And guess what? As soon as I realized that, I sat there, took a couple of deep breaths. I said, but you know what? I worked it out of my mind. And the next thing I know, the pain was gone.
It's like that, huh?
No, my foot turned red hot and then it was gone. And I said, wait a minute. That's the funny thing. Even though you know something, to see it and to experience it, it's all together different sometimes.
Right.
And
it can still kind of blow your mind a little bit, huh?
It does it all the time because, I've been fortunate for the past 10 years not to even take aspirins and not to take, because that's a powerful secret. Pharmaceutical companies don't want us to know that.
Right.
They just call it placebo effects, but but we have control over how our body operates. That's God given to everybody.
Right, yeah.
And once I start realizing that, I start appreciating that. And I can't appreciate that unless I use it.
Yeah. Oh man. Nafees, I love and appreciate you, brother. And
hey, appreciate you, brother.
Every time we have a conversation, it's always rich, and always some good stuff that's coming out, and I just really appreciate that. And there have been plenty of things that in different ways you and I have independently been led to the same place, the same conclusions about certain things.
Exactly.
And then there are some things that that I've been able to share, that you found very enlightening, that helped you out. There are things that you shared that that I found very enlightening and helped me out, and that I've been able to incorporate in my life. I'm just so thankful for that. And not everybody necessarily gets to have that kind of experience in that way. And so that makes me, even more appreciative. And
well, that's why I love you, my brother.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody can I have this level of conversation with. But this is
not everybody gonna really
love, man.
Not everybody gonna listen either. But hey.
That's true. Yeah, and there have been several comments that have been that have taken place, and one the most recent one that I'm seeing. Sometimes it's hard to listen to you and to read the comments.
Okay.
This comment just popped up from a Curly Conscious King, and he says, "Please bring Nafees back for part 2." Oh boy! But I mean, I shared it with you. There was a moment where I had to. I said, "Hold on, let's stop talking for a minute so I can get this technical stuff situated."
Yeah.
And I shared with you, kind of humorously, if I've learned that I can't talk on the phone in the grocery store. Because all that's going to happen is I'm just going to wander around. I'm just going to be meandering up and down the aisle and not do any shopping.
Oh.
But I mean, I really deeply enjoy these rich conversations. I mean, I deeply value connection,
Yeah.
and I really do believe that at the end of the day, that we are all connected, that we're all
Yeah.
ultimately one people. You know, we may look differently, we may come from different backgrounds, we may have a different socioeconomic situation going on, we may look differently physically, we may speak different languages. There are all of
Mhm.
these things, areas where we might be different. But we really are, at the end of the day, we really are all one. We're all breathing the same air. You know,
Yes.
we all have, you know, essentially the same fundamental needs. Now,
Right.
our needs might show up differently, but we all have really the same fundamental needs. And you know, and so anytime we're able to engage, or anytime I'm personally able to engage in a way where that connection can be tangibly felt, you know, I really appreciate that. You know, one of the greatest addictions there is, you know, now these devices is a big one. um, but you know, that really kind of, I think it serves as an umbrella, but like uh, pornography, sex, and electronic devices are some of the biggest addictions that there are, bigger than alcohol, bigger than drugs. But the real addiction is the hormone release in the brain. You know, that
Wow.
dopamine fix that's released in the brain, and we go to these different things to get that. But like, whether it's checking, you know, seeing what's going on with our social media on our phones, or what text messages have come in or whatever, that's speaking to our, you know, we're really hardwired for that sense of connection. You know, it
Yes,
gives us
sir.
a feeling of a virtual feeling of connection. People's, you know, if there's anything that people have gone crazy about, you know, just historically, as far as humanity is concerned, it's been sex in some
Yeah.
way. And really what that's ultimately dealing with. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff, you know, in the media, you know, commercials advertise sex. They may be selling beer, but what they're advertising is sex. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, but what that's really getting to is that sense of oneness, that sense of connection. And it just happens to be the most spiritual experience for a lot of people that they'll ever have.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, but you know, ultimately, what we all, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, we all want to experience some level of connection, some level of
Yeah.
connection. We want to experience some level of connection with others. We want to experience some level of connection with something bigger than ourselves. Um, and you know, and I definitely, in a very real and tangible way, feel that sense of connection when we have conversation. Um,
Oh, it's good.
yeah, yeah. So you know, that's something that means a lot to me. And like I said, I love you, brother. And I appreciate
Oh,
it. I'm
oh,
glad for the brotherhood that's existed between us for the last decade and a half, or close to the last decade and a half, or however long it's been.
yeah. And you know what? I just wish everybody can have the same connections.
Hmm.
And you said connections, and that's what's important. Is it primal? Yeah, you got primal connections, what you were talking about.
Hmm.
But also, you got emotional and spiritual connections.
Hmm.
So it's about when you connect with a person, that's great, but on what level?
Right, right.
And you're taking people to that next level where we can communicate as one. Okay, it causes our vibration to come up and not primal, not down.
Right, right. And you know, I mean, that's definitely the goal, Nafis. Um, you know, I was telling somebody yesterday, like let's have all this love inside of me. I
Mhm.
can't keep it inside. I'd explode if I tried to keep it inside. Um, like I talk about sometimes about the difference between an entertainer and an artist. You know,
Okay.
there are people who sing who are just entertainers, but there are people who sing that are truly artists.
Wow.
The one who's simply an entertainer is doing it for a paycheck. The one who's
Yeah.
truly an artist, they have to do it.
Right.
It's so much a part of who they are. They have to do it. Whether they're getting paid for it or not, they have to do it. It will be physically painful for them not to. And that's how I am as far as
Oh,
love is concerned. I've got too much inside of me to keep it all inside. It has to come out. It's going to
keep,
come out somehow. And,
keep spreading it, brother.
I'm telling you, man, it's real. But the reality is that not everybody is open for this kind of conversation. I love and this is through meaningful dialogue is one way that I like to and I feel a lot of fulfillment, certainly in terms of extending and sharing love. I
Right.
believe that there's a lot from things that I've been graced to experience, things I've been graced to learn, that have definitely helped me along in my journey. I want to share those things for those who are open to it and can benefit from it as well. I believe it's wonderful to learn from your mistakes. I believe that it's also wonderful to learn from other people's mistakes instead. and so I would love for anybody to be able to learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to make the same ones.
Wow. You know what? But by life being a school, and it's not right or wrong to be in the 5th grade or 6th grade or 7th grade.
Mm,
It's not a moral dilemma. It's just the level that you're on. The important thing is that you're in school.
right.
I hear what you're saying, bro.
Yeah, so not everybody is open to what it is that I have to share, and that's fine. Everybody has their journey. Some people I gotta call. I've got a cousin who's here, Ketrin, my mother's father's brother's daughter. Okay.
Okay.
And I got a call from another cousin on my mother's side. What's today? Is today the 28th? Okay, so Thursday. It was her birthday. And it was her birthday, but she called me. Now, I hadn't talked with her for a minute. It had been a little while since I had last spoken with her. And she's closer to my mother's age. But we had a conversation. She reached out. I had put a message on her Facebook page wishing her a happy birthday. But she called me. I even to this moment, I don't know if she had even seen that message or not. But she called me. She had actually got my phone number from another cousin.
Wow.
This other cousin called a mutual cousin called to wish her happy birthday, and in that conversation, she said, "Do you have Royce's number?" Apparently, I had been put on her heart, and so she said as soon as they hung up, she ended up calling me. But she shared something interesting in that conversation. She said, she used to think that I was kind of out there, kind of weird. But she said that like basically the guy that kind of given her a revelation, and it was kind of like what you were saying earlier about you can be in the 5th grade, the 6th grade, the 7th grade. It's not a moral dilemma. If you're in the 5th grade, and you're learning one thing, it might not be the time for you to be studying. If where you are right now is 5th grade math, it might not be time to start studying geometry and trigonometry.
Right.
That it just might not be the right fit for where you are at that moment. But on her birthday, we had this conversation, and there are some things I was able to kind of share. It's like, wow, that was really. She was saying, wow, that's really insightful. Take that, put it in my back pocket, add it to my toolbox. And I mean, there weren't things that were like necessarily profoundly deep or anything. She was sharing, some challenges that she was having with meditating and stuff, and what I shared wasn't really that deep, and other people might be able to relate to this too. Might try meditating and maybe give up on it, or you're trying to meditate and these thoughts pop into your head and you're trying to chase the thoughts. And you're completely out of your meditation at that point. For example, I shared, well, just observe that the thoughts are there. You don't have to like push them away. You just observe that they're there.
Yeah.
And, let them go. And if you have a hard time getting to sleep at night, well, think about staying awake. Because then, if you're thinking, I gotta go to sleep, I gotta stop thinking these thoughts while I'm meditating. What you're really doing is just putting up resistance to what is actually going on right now at the moment. Okay.
Exactly.
And the resistance to whatever is, the resistance to that, like the example that you gave earlier with this guy with his financial situation being different, the resistance doesn't get rid of the problem.
No.
It doesn't get rid of the problem. But whether putting up the resistance to going to sleep, putting up the resistance to these thoughts showing up, random thoughts, whatever they are, showing up during the meditation, acknowledging that you're just having the thoughts helps to release the resistance. Trying to force yourself to fall asleep when it's in the middle of the night, that's just putting up resistance to sleeping. If you think about staying awake, you then release the resistance to falling asleep. And then you've got resistance to staying awake. Well, which is fine because you're not wanting to stay awake anyway. So then you can it's just a way of kind of tricking your mind, getting yourself out of your own way.
That's it.
That's what life is mainly about.
Right? That's it.
That's what life is mainly about, is us learning to get ourselves out of our own way.
Hey, that water's gonna flow.
I know that includes me too, right?
Hey, everybody. Let that water flow and just get off the hose.
Right. Yeah.
It's gonna do what it's supposed. What you resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
The more resistance you put up against stuff, that's why the harder you look for those keys, you lose them.
Man.
And then as soon as you forget about it, here they are. I got them in my hand.
There you go. So
like you said, get out of the best times and aha moments is when we get out of our way.
Yeah.
And because usually our way is full of fears and doubts and suspicions and and all those stones and fear.
Mm-hmm.
So if we just shut that part of the brain down, I learned that from hypnosis. That's why the hypnotist will say you're getting sleepy. He's trying to put that part of the brain to sleep because that's the resistant part. I want to talk to the part of the brain that controls everything.
Right. Yeah.
So in other words, get out the way so I can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I learned about healing. If I can get out of my way, I can heal.
Yeah.
It happens every time.
Wow. That's so strange. And it's funny because you mentioned hypnotism, and I'm not advocating or speaking against hypnosis as a therapy,
right?
Per se. But it's funny because right before you said hypnosis, I thought about hypnosis, the purpose of it being for you to relax your own mind.
Yes.
Really to help you come to your own answers ultimately. But I had that thought, and it's similar to, when we were preparing to come on here, and I was trying to figure out how to maybe put a picture of you up so people, could see the
Yeah.
picture of you. And I randomly pulled up this picture. It happened to have been a picture of Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston the moment that he became the heavyweight champion of the world. Randomly, it was that picture, okay? And then you shared your camera, and that picture was that same exact picture was right in front of where you were in that moment.
It was less than a foot away. It's actually it's sitting next to the phone that I'm talking to you on.
Oh my goodness!
The exact picture. Out of any picture in the world,
Right.
we show each other the exact same picture.
Yes.
And I said, well, okay, well, that shows how it works.
And the reality of the matter is, no picture ended up being shared on the broadcast.
Exactly.
I wasn't able to end up figuring out how it worked anyway. And I had never actually even tried to do that before. But for whatever reason, it worked out the way that it did, in my trying to test some things that the test ultimately didn't work out how I wanted it to anyway, or how I was ultimately the conversation is what really mattered, not what it looked like around us or whatever.
I think that's the point.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're open to sending over a picture for the
Sure.
for the YouTube cover, I can include a picture of you on that.
Okay.
But I mean, really, what I'm kind of saying all this to say is that really everything, God is really working on our behalf. Everything really is divinely ordered. There are things that are going on in the background that we don't have any clue about. And all of these things that we spend so much time and energy trying to control, trying to have things work out the way we think we want them to work out. Lord have mercy. How we want things to happen the way we think we want them to. And quite frankly, a lot of times we don't know what it is that we really want. We think we know what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for stuff, and then we pray to get rid of the thing that we've been praying for. But the reality is that if we can loosen or release a little bit our tightness on the reins,
yes,
and allow ourselves to be in the flow.
yes,
And allow ourselves to be in the flow. The reality is that we really are loved and we really are cherished. And there is a higher purpose that is going on beyond what we see in, from the close-up view that we're looking at things. God is saying things from a much broader and a much higher perspective, and sees what it is that we're really wanting and needing. And at the same time has a profoundly deep love for us, for all of us. And even though there might be things that happen in our lives that don't feel good in them, even though there are things in our lives that, that we might have said or done, that might have caused ourselves or other people problems, it's important to take ownership of the areas where we've missed the mark. It's important, I think, for us to take ownership of and take responsibility for things that we've done that have created problems in our lives and problems in the lives of other people. And it's also important to allow space for grace, to allow space for love, to allow space for the possibility that everything is being put together in a way that's covering us, where it's covered. There isn't anything that any of us could do we can get off our path. We can go directions that aren't beneficial for us. But at the end of the day, there isn't anything that's ever going to make God stop loving us or seeking to look for ways to bring us back into the fold. And I want to say for anybody who's out there today, you know, I know Layla mentioned comment about self-punishment. Yes, that's definitely something that we do sometimes. I just want to invite anybody here today to just make room for a little grace, you know, love that's filled with grace, you know, to come into your life. And, you know, like with you, Nafis, you know, you had some painful stuff that you experienced and that you endured. But the reality is that even in the midst of that pain, there was still love that was available.
Exactly.
And I'm so thankful, you know, that you made space in your heart and your life for love to come in and to flow. And I believe that one of the ways that that's manifested is through the friendship and the brotherhood that we've shared over the years.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And, you know, whether it's talking, you know, you sharing, I mean, I thought it was such a rich and powerful lesson that you shared, you know, in the context of gardening a couple months ago. You know, there was such a rich life lesson in that, you know, that you shared, and I've shared it here since that conversation. I've shared of our conversation. They hadn't met me before, but your wisdom had shown up as I referenced it from the conversation. You know, remember when you were telling me about your garden and all the herbs and fruits and vegetables you're growing in your garden, and how you planted the seeds and then put a weight on top of them.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you mind sharing that real quickly?
Yeah, I mean, and that was, I call my garden Danny's Healing Garden.
Mm-hmm.
Named after my daughter. And I listened to that garden because we learned nature speaks and it doesn't need words.
Mm-hmm.
We need words.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're open, you receive the information. Information is not dependent on words.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in the garden, I learned, even when I grow microgreens, when I'm growing inside, it's the same principle. You plant the seed in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would do was with microgreens, I would plant a tray over the seeds. I wouldn't bury the seeds, even though I would if it was outside, but I would lay them on where I would cover them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would put weights on them. The seeds will try to grow. But since everything always goes toward the light. And since it cannot reach the light, it forces itself, because the weight and resistance that I placed on it, it can't go up, so it forces its roots to grow deeper down. Once those roots are strong, I take the weight off. It's still in the dark, but I take the weight off. That weight that I have is resistance, is the tragedies in our life and stuff. But during all this tragedy, I was forcing myself, trying to get some kind of light. But I was still had the weight of me. The weight was still upon me. So I learned that, but I was getting stronger, didn't realize it, because I was planting myself deeper in principle, in spirituality. I was being grounded. Once I took that tray off, I still was looking for the light, even though I didn't have the resistance. Later, you take the tray off and you expose it to the light. And when you expose it to the light or to the elements, it's open now. But now it's strong enough to survive the environment. It can survive the environment because of the fact its roots are deep. So the plant we don't appreciate the fact of resistance until we expose ourselves to the light, and then we realize why there was resistance. It was to make us stronger. So now I realized that about my daughter. It was to make me stronger. I was looking for spirituality. I was looking everywhere I could find the light. Once that was released, and now once you're exposed to the light, you can receive the light. You know what happened to those plants? Within hours, they start to turn green, exposed to the light.
Wow.
Before they're yellow, but then they start to turn green. They're real color.
Mm,
And they turn green because they're receiving the information from the photons from the light.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Once we get past our gripes and pains and suffering, and then we expose ourselves, like you said earlier, about being open. Now you're open. But you remember, when you open, you also have to be strong because you're also exposed and vulnerable,
Mm.
which means I have to pull the weeds out the garden too. so,
Yes. Yes.
so if you know, because whatever you're trying to do, it's not all the time good to expose it right away. Not until everything is in place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because if not, you'll have weeds in your garden that may suck the life force out of that, trying to preserve its own.
Right. Right.
Much like certain people, certain situations.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I found my garden taught me that. Bury yourself deep, let your roots expand, look for the light. It'll be there, but when it comes, you'll be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so again so rich. I feel like I keep saying that's so powerful. That's so rich. That's so beautiful. Um, because it is, and you know, and you use the word resistance again here too, and I want to clarify because we've tossed around the word resistance in two totally different contexts in this conversation.
Okay.
One is resisting what is actually going on. That's something that we do. Okay?
Right.
That's not favorable for us per se. You talked about another kind of resistance, like, for instance, if a person is exercising, there's a resistance.
Yeah.
Okay. That's almost like more of an external resistance that we're being presented with, not something that we're imposing on ourselves. Okay.
Exactly.
And the reality is there are situations where the weight of life happens upon us. Where there are things that we've got to find a way to navigate, that we've got to be able to elevate in the midst of, or because we're seeking to elevate, maybe we're not. You didn't share it in this conversation in a way you did, but I remember when we initially had that conversation, you were sharing, that if you hadn't put the weight on top of these microgreens or whatever it was that you were planting in your garden, they would have reached the surface quicker. They would have
Yeah.
reached the surface more quickly because they were still seeking the light. They were still seeking to make their way to the light, but they wouldn't have been able to be sustained.
Mm-hmm.
The weight of what was above the surface would have caused them to topple if they didn't have what's sustaining a plant is its roots.
Yes.
Okay. And so you shared the value of the weights is that it allowed them to dig their roots deeper so that they can be sustained. And the reality is that nobody consciously says, okay, I want to have a bad day today. Nobody consciously says, I want my daughter to die.
Right.
Nobody says, I want to fall in love and then have my heart broken.
Right.
Nobody consciously says any of this crap. Nobody says I want to get fired from my job, even if you hate the job.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you hate a job. I've got a loved one who recently had that very experience, But those are the things that are sometimes like the weight of life, just showing up, an illness, whatever the case might be. But those things actually cause us to dig our roots deeper, to really set firm a solid, healthy foundation. Okay. There are a lot of times where things don't happen as quickly as we want them to in our lives. Whether that's financial opportunities, whether that's love flowing in a certain way, whether that's, um, something that we're working on creating, whether it's a song or a piece of art or whatever the case might be. A lot of times we want things that happen as quickly as
Yeah.
possible. Getting a new job, whatever the case might be. We tend to want these things to happen as quickly as possible. And sometimes they do happen quickly. And it's not really for our best that they happen so quickly because there wasn't really something firm and solid to be built upon.
You know what I did, Royce? I did that same experiment. I had a group of broccoli microgreens growing, and I
Mm,
didn't put the weight on them.
mm, mm.
And I actually took after a minute, I just took the cover off, and they grew nice and tall.
Uh,
But the stalks were so skinny they just fell over
mm.
and they
Wow.
died.
Uh-huh.
They was reaching the light, but they didn't have enough support. So that goes to what you just saying.
Hmm. Hmm.
Too
Yeah.
soon. Too soon.
Yeah. And I'm saying this for everybody who's listening to the conversation. I'm saying this for myself, for all of us, that, blessings delayed are not blessings denied. Sometimes we just need to allow for the process of things to unfold. Sometimes we've got to, there are a lot of things that we want to put our hands to try to make happen in the way that we want to happen. We're trying to do things in our own will and do things in our own strength. And maybe it's not happening as quickly as we want it to. But if we can somehow find a way to accept the possibility, even just as a possibility, that things really are working out in a way that is ultimately for our good. If we can open up for just the possibility of it, I think that we can release the internal resistance,
Yes.
the external weight
Yes.
that just comes with life. And as we release that internal, see, there's something that I noticed watching the Olympics, track and field, sprinters. And, when the Summer Olympics are on, I enjoy, you know, I like watching, sometimes the diving, the high diving, the gymnastics, the track and field. Those are some of the ones that I particularly enjoy watching. And as far as the track and field, I really enjoy watching the sprints. And one of the things I observed years ago, these world-class sprinters, they show their face, they'll show the camera on the people's faces. You can see kind of their upper body, but they show their faces too. You might see their arms swinging, and you can see their legs in different shots. And you see these people are world-class athletes, highly trained. They've spent a lot of time developing their bodies. They work their arms, their legs, their backs, their stomach, their shoulders. They work all of these different parts of their body to help themselves run faster. Not just their legs, but their whole body to help themselves to run faster. Okay. Lifted a lot of weights, done a lot of different things. And when they're sprinting, you can see at different points this, the muscles in their body, kind of coming through where you can see them clearly because the muscles are being exerted. But then something that was always very strange, particularly like when they'll show it kind of in slow motion. You see their faces bouncing up and down like this. The reason their faces are doing that is because they don't have that tension in their faces that are in their arms and their legs and their shoulders and their backs and their stomachs, all of these other places that are helping them to run. tension. There are no muscles in their face that are helping them to run fast, and so they're releasing any tension in their face to allow that energy to be directed to their legs and arms and other places that are going to help them to run fast. And so wherever it is that we're having tension, we're taking energy away from where we can be directing it that's going to actually help us in our journey. Whatever our destination is, our ultimate destination is, wherever it is that we're trying to get. And so like the sprinters whose faces are relaxed because there's no value. For me, when I was trying to run my fastest, my face would be tight too, but I was taking energy away from other places that it could have gone in my body to actually help me run faster. But these world-class sprinters, they knew that, they know that, and they operate accordingly. And in a similar way, when we release resistance to the things that are actually happening in our lives, resisting whatever is actually showing up in our life, then we're taking energy away from places that we can be directing it more constructive. And are there things that show up in our lives that we don't need to participate with? Oh, for sure. For sure. But there are some things that are outside of our control. And our attempt to control it is not going to help us to try to control what can't be controlled. And, I don't know if anybody is getting anything from that or not, but I do.
I got plenty. I'll wait for seconds. I got it.
Well, go ahead. I was just kind of rambling for a little bit there.
Hey, well, rambling is good too, because sometimes you ain't got resistance when you're rambling. But no, I'm following you, brother, because certain things are the external environment you don't control.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But you control the internal environment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And once a person, that's what they mean by the kingdom of God is within you. It's the internal environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's where everything, all the magic happens.
Yeah.
What they say, Brother Royce, if don't go within, you do without.
Yes.
And that I have found to be true with everything.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what's going on, that's all meditation is.
Mm-hmm.
Is going within.
Mm-hmm.
And leaving out the external distractions, influences.
Right.
Because when everybody travel within, they're going to see the same light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I choose to spend my time going within myself and understanding that, the biggest thing I found that actually helped me out the most. I studied so much I studied stuff, man, hypnosis, and I studied NLP, EFT, and all the other T's. Okay. And I studied all this stuff, man. And I studied, herbs and, I spent hours, man. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I literally spent 1,000 hours studying this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And still had issues.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had to realize, see, you can tell a person what to do and show them what to do.
Mm.
But it's not to know what to do, it's how to do it.
Right.
And I knew what all the what's and this is that and this is that. And I gave myself all the good slogans and bumper stickers. And I had to realize, I said, you know what? It didn't make sense to me. When I understood it all is when I let all the other stuff go.
Mm.
Then I learned how to use it.
Mm.
But before I was going around I'm always looking for a new technique.
Mm.
Oh, I got to find this technique. I got to find that technique. When I let go of the fact is techniques is only a modem to get somewhere.
Right. Right.
I didn't need. I just realized that it's me. I'm the one that's doing the traveling.
Right.
So everything else is just a tool. Some will get you a little quicker than others.
Right.
So I just let go of the tools.
Mm,
So now I can utilize any of the tools because I know the magic is not in the tools.
mm,
The magic is in me. It was in you. It's in everybody else.
mm.
Jesus never healed nobody until he said, ask them, do you believe? You know, and that's the bottom line. I asked a person, hey, look, do you believe that you can do this? I can show you. I can show you, give you the tools to build a house and show you how to build it. Do you believe you can build it? And it boils down to that. So when I let go of all the other stuff and just say, okay, what do I believe? And I just dealt with me, nothing else. And then you're looking at the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror, and you're saying, what is it that I'm dealing with? Me. Because it all go boil down to how I interpret it. I can give you any message, but it's going to get lost in translation. So I ask the person, I don't look at a person, if hey, I got an issue here. How heal you? I say, I can't heal you. But I can show you how to go within yourself and you heal yourself, because that's what the answer is at anyway. There's a saying, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. All healing is self-healing. And when you leave yourself out of it, nothing happens.
Man.
Well, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, you know, next month will mark 19 years since the first Transcending the Matrix class. It was September 26th.
That long? Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was exactly 9 years and 11 months, 19 years and 11 months ago today.
Wow.
The first ever Transcending the Matrix class took place. It was September 26th through 28th. Sunday, September 28th was the last day of the first ever Transcending the Matrix class. And here we are, Sunday, the 20th of August, 2023. 2022. That was 2003 then. 2022 now.
Wow.
Okay, anyway, you know, there's so much that I've learned about myself in that process. And, you know, there are a lot of people that I've been blessed to work with in terms of healing. I always, you know, ultimately give the credit to God. And I maintain that there's nothing that's beyond God's healing power. Now, there are things that I know and there are things that I can do, but, you know, the scripture says, unless the Lord buildeth the house, the builder builds in vain. So, you know, I can do everything that I'm doing, but unless God shows up, ain't nothing happening, you know, at the end of the day, you know. But, you know, the reality is that I've learned a lot about healing on this journey. You know, I had health issues that I dealt with as a child, as a younger person in life, as a young adult. And for me, the Western medical model wasn't something that worked for me. And I believe that had a significant role in me ending up where I am now. But even where I started, even though I was a catalyst for a lot of other people to experience, you know, some wonderful things as far as their healing was concerned, you know, there's been so much I've learned along the way. So much that I've learned along the way. There have been times where I've been working with people and it got to a certain point, and then, you know, I felt led to direct my attention on me. So then I started doing the healing on me, and then it showed up in them.
Wow.
You know, and so, you know, in terms of my healing of my own barriers and my own misperceptions, any pressure that I might have been placing on myself even. And then the healing showed up in them. you know, where I am now, and you know what I share with people, um, and we have people who've done the training who come to these lives. You know, really at the end of the day, all the healing, all the healing is your healing, and it's showing up in another person. And because really at the end of the
Wow.
day, we really, again, we really are all one. We really are all one. And you know, there are a couple things that I quote from Jesus, from Yeshua, um, that to me are directly related to healing. And one is, are you going to get the speck of dust out of this other person's eye when you got a plank in your own eye? First, clear the plank out of your own eye, then you can see clearly how to clear that speck out of this other person's eye. And another thing that he said, and this is right along those same lines, to me, said that if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. And what both of these scriptures are speaking to is an eye being single, not like you only have one eye, but if your eye is whole, as single as opposed one, as opposed to less than one, as opposed to fragmented. Okay. If your eye is whole, your whole body will be filled with light. If you're seeing things clearly, your whole body will be filled with light. If you get beyond, if you can remove the filters from your own perspective, because you know, Nafi, so often in life we project our own stuff onto other people,
We
and we
do.
don't even know that we're doing it. We
Right.
get upset with people, and really we're just putting our stuff on them. You know, we have these um, issues with how other people are doing things, and really, I can't tell you how many times in my life I've had issues with people and realized that they weren't ever in the wrong in the first place.
Hmm.
It was just, it was me and my own misperception.
There you go.
Yeah. You know, sometimes we have baggage that we put on other people. There's sometimes people who are really um, not coming from the place at all that we think that they're coming from because of what our own baggage is, whatever that is. And it's okay that we have baggage. I don't want anybody to beat up on yourself because you have baggage. All I want to say is if you choose to, it's okay to unpack it. It's okay to unpack it. And I believe that God loves, I know God loves us all enough to send into our lives people who can help us unpack it, who can support us
Exactly.
in unpacking it, people who can come to us from a place of genuine love. For anybody who makes room for the possibility of that, for them is it available. For those who say it's impossible, it can never happen for me, it's going to remain that way for you as long as you're thinking that way. Even if there are tons of people who are right there, right now, you just won't
Yeah.
have eyes to see it. You got to get that speck of dust out of your eye so that your eye is single, so that your whole body will be filled with light, so that you'll feel whole, so that you'll be lighter, um, and that you can, you know, express from the place that's in alignment with who it is that God had really designed you to be in the first place.
Well, I walked through a sandstorm, so I understand.
And we all have in different ways.
Yeah.
You've experienced some things that, you know, that most people have not, but that some have. I
Ex-
have experienced some things that, you know, not everybody's experienced, but some people have. And at the end of the day, we all, nobody's experienced exactly what any of us have experienced, because our experience of it is unique to us. There are people who've, the same thing has happened to them that happened to us, but their experience of it isn't necessarily the same as ours. Our experience of it isn't necessarily the same as theirs. You know, for
Yeah.
one person, a person cutting you off in traffic, you know, it's not a big deal. For another person cutting you off in traffic, and may trigger you to no end.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily make you weak that you're triggered. Okay, it just makes you triggered. It doesn't mean that you're a weak person because you're triggered. However, your triggers will weaken you.
Wow.
And so it is good to see, to be able to identify areas where we're triggered, because most of the time the stuff that's happening in the moment isn't what we're really upset about. It's this that we're triggered from other experiences.
Ooh.
Other experiences that are unresolved from the past. And the beauty, the trigger is really in a way a gift to help us see where to clear up. Just like with that guy, his back pain was a gift to help him let go of. To me, that moment was divinely orchestrated.
Yes.
You weren't expecting to find yourself on this group conversation at that time when this guy was there who had been having all this back pain for all this time. But I believe divinely ordered from things that you had been through that caused you to learn certain things that allowed you to be in a place of saying it. The person who called you had been on their own journey that led them to be where they were, that led your paths to cross. That there are a lot of different things that were going on in the background.
Yes, it was.
Years and years and years that we don't have any idea what all of those things were that led to that moment. But that allowed you to be in a space to be able to share that little bit of insight with that guy in that moment. And that he was able to end up experiencing that release from it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I just showed up and he just showed up.
Right. Yeah, man, boy, what things can happen when we choose to show up?
That's the important thing. It's just the presence of being there. Mm-hmm. Just like when I needed help and stuff, and I was at the hospital with my daughter, you just showed up. That was all you had to do. Mm. And I felt, and this the calmness of your energy helped balance out mine.
Wow.
And just being there, like you said, and I noticed you didn't say much at all, but you knew the power of presence. Mm. And just being present is sometimes all that's necessary. Because you can talk all you want to, but not necessarily be present.
Yeah, yeah. And there is something significant in what you said. I'm a minister. I minister to people. That's part of what I do. I believe it's part of why I'm on the planet. But so I deal with people who are I interact with people who are dealing with difficult situations sometimes.
Right.
I interact with people who are dealing with death, whether their own or that of a loved one. And this is something I want to say for the people who are listening today, that God has kind of shown me along my own journey. Sometimes we're with somebody we're in the presence of somebody who has something difficult that they're dealing with. It could be a sickness. It could be some medical prognosis. It could be, that they had a heartbreak or the loss of a loved one, the apparent loss of a loved one. And something within us, a lot of times makes us want to help make it better. And sometimes we'll say things, a person's lost a job, they've lost, a relationship ended, whatever. And it's a great temptation sometimes to say stuff to try to fix it. There's situations where there's nothing that can really be said. And sometimes I was having a conversation with somebody not long ago, and they were sharing an experience they had with somebody else. And they were sharing how, they were telling the person, well, I don't know if they told the person this or if they were just thinking this, like, you're not saying this to make me feel better. This isn't. There's nothing you can say that can make me feel better. This person was saying about this conversation with this other person. Like, you're saying this to try to make yourself feel better, and like that's like,
Ooh.
yeah, that's a great temptation to say these things that are going to ultimately be meaningless to the person that you're saying it to. The reality is that it can feel uncomfortable to be with somebody without being able to do anything or say anything to help the situation. But sometimes just the presence helps. Somebody who's lost a loved one, there ain't a whole lot you can say that's going to help them feel better. They're in a better place. Yeah, intellectually we know this, but that ain't making my pain go away right now.
Yeah.
If anything, it's kind of irritating that you're even saying this right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the presence can make a difference. And sometimes, we might want to call. We have a loved one we know is going through something. Sometimes the only thing that we can say is that I'm here.
Yes.
Let the person know that you're there, and and sometimes, like what you were just saying just a minute ago, Nafis, the presence can make the difference. And even if the person chooses to not take one up on the offer to be present in that particular moment, knowing that a person is there, just knowing that they are there and that they want to be there can help. At least I found that to be the case.
Exactly. And that's why I used to tell people, if you have a pain, try something. And that is what you did when you was working with me.
Mm.
I said, now, I ask people to try this with themselves. If you have a pain, a lot of times, like you said, we try to, if somebody's in pain, we try to come up with the right slogan or the right thing to say to handle our triggers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you have a pain in your body or something like that, I just said, just listen to your body. Don't judge it.
Mm-hmm.
You put your mind in it. Just because what the body is doing is expressing this pain so it can be released. That's like a person being in pain and you're not allowing them to cry.
Mm.
It becomes chronic.
Yeah.
That's the source of chronic pain.
Mm.
And when you got pain and you just our first initial thing is to resist it and push it away.
Mm-hmm.
That's not accepting the fact that we have the pain.
Right.
Once we allow ourselves and be what the word you just used there, be present with it and watch what happens to it.
Mm-hmm.
As you're more present with the pain is being heard. It may for a second escalate a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And then watch what happens later on. It starts to drop down immensely.
Mm-hmm.
Because the body is feeling that it's being expressed.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't hold those trapped emotions in that particular part of the body.
Yeah.
So I just stopped doing that. Whenever I get pain, I just say, okay, I'm in pain. I mean, no sense saying I'm not. Okay, I'm in pain. And then, like you said, it get kind of irritating. Somebody say, oh, well, you can do this, and you're really not in pain because that's all in your head. Okay. Let that pain express itself. It's like a child is trying to express itself to you.
Mm-hmm.
If that child's in pain, let them express that pain, and pretty soon that child learns to move through that pain quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But we just so afraid the fact that we can't handle the pain, so we resist the pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by resisting it, we create the very situation that we're trying to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's
so
it.
I use your word. I use your word, my friend Royce. Be patient and be present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like you were with me.
Well, I'm thankful that I was given the grace to be able to be there and to be in that way. It's not a place I've always been in my life. And people who have been around me more recently will find it hard to believe. I know that because I've heard people say it. But I've been with me my whole life. And so I know where I am now from where I was before.
Yeah.
Whereas you might just be seeing where I am right now. It's been a journey. It's been a journey. But I'm thankful for the journey, and I'm thankful that my journey and your journey led us to cross one another's paths. I definitely feel the better for it. And as you've expressed, you seem to feel the same way.
Oh God, yeah. Okay. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, man, and I'm so grateful for this. I said about an hour. We've been here 2 hours.
Yeah, I know. Hey,
And,
I forgot anybody's listening.
and I don't know who's still here. I don't know if there are people who are still on who started off, or there are people who just happened to come on recently, or what. But for everybody who's here, and thank you for being here. You've added to the conversation, certainly. Layla's still here in Bosnia. Layla, what time is it where you are right now? There was a time that we had Layla on in Bosnia and a lady named Dulcie on in Hawaii, and they were 12 hours apart. Curly Conscious King is still here. He says this was good and much needed. Wonderful. I'm very happy for that. By the way, Curly Conscious King, next level 1 is going to be September 16th through 18th. I meant to send that information to you. But the next level 1 is going to be September 16th through the 18th. The next level 2 is going to be in October. I'm still in the process of determining which weekend. Either it's going to be one of the last 2 weekends in October. Just haven't settled on which weekend yet. And then the level 3, which I know a lot of people have been highly anticipating, is going to be either the end of November or early to mid-December. So that's still in the process of being determined. So, but I wanted to share that. But Curly Conscious King says, hey, listen, even though it's been 2 hours, we still need a part 2. So Nafis, we're going to have to do this again, brother.
Well, just let me know when. The next time I wear my cowboy hat.
Okay. Well, were there any closing thoughts that you wanted to share before we log off?
Well, when you ended everything by talking about presence, nothing else needs to be said.
Okay. All right. Well, we can drop the mic on that then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for everybody out here, thank you for being here. Many blessings be upon you. We're always here at 1:00 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays. Occasionally there are times where we might not be on if I'm teaching, for instance, because I tend to teach on the weekends when I'm teaching the healing classes. But I still sometimes will still jump on, maybe just for a couple minutes, just to let you know that we haven't forgotten about you. We got a class going on. But as a rule of thumb, we're here every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And just here again, hoping to be able to take something that has been proved to be fruitful in my life in one way or another and share it with you. Whoever's receptive, that it can maybe add some value to your life. And whether that's kind of a message that I'm giving to offer some increased clarity maybe, or some hope or encouragement or inspiration, or actually doing healing. So we're always happy to do that. maybe somebody, Nafis, from what you were sharing, maybe somebody would even has taken a page out of your book and will apply some of the things that you even shared. And maybe experience some healing, even though we didn't actually do a healing per se in today's open healing session.
Hey, I'll be curious to find out.
Yeah, well, man, listen, I love you, brother, and I appreciate you, man.
I love you too.
Always, man. We could go on and on and on and on, and there's always something rich that's going to happen in our dialogue. Whenever we're having conversation, there's going to be, something good that's going to happen.
Already look forward to the next one.
Yes. Well, for all of you who are out there, Layla, Curly Conscious King, whoever else is out there watching, Reverend Shirley, I don't know if you're still here or not. Ketron, I don't know if you're still here or not. Whoever else, Pam, I don't know if you're still here or not. Whoever else is here, we send you forth as always with peace and love, and we'll look forward to catching you next time.